Previous video, I had played with R and I made this first plot over here, a sort of a clustered bar graph, bar chart, bar plot, whatever you want to call it, of this data where you had guppies, males and females, and then you changed their environment. So in their regular environment, that was the control, and then they made some change to the environment, and that was the experiment, and then they measured, in this case, their weight. And so we had made this plot here for the most part using R. Now what I want to do this time is I want to do it again, but this time use ggplot, and I'm going to arrange the data in a different format. Previously, the data was a matrix. This time I'm going to make it a data frame. And then finally, I'm going to also make this age at maturity graph and put them side by side. Okay, so let's get started. So the data is from this biology book, sort of old by now, fourth edition, Campbell. And again, we're making this side-by-side plot by the time we're done. Here's how I'm arranging the data this time. I'm starting off with 4 vectors, male, male, female, female, control, experiment. And these are the mature weights and the mature ages. So let me enter that and then make a data frame from those vectors. Okay, so now there is some repetition, male, male, female, female, in the columns rather than in the rows. So they talk about sort of wide formats and long formats, and I believe this is a wide format. Okay, I'm going to bring in the ggplot2 library. And when I make the plot in ggplot, when I have these categories here, the default will be to alphabetize them, to sort them. And so then the females came first. And there's no problem with that, except I was trying to, as much as possible, sort of duplicate this. And so I wanted to stick to the order of males and then females. And that's what I made a little vector called desired order that you'll see in a minute. And that's the purpose of that, to say I want the males and then the females. Okay. So here is the basic plot. We're going to use ggplot. We're going to plot the data called guppy, which is in a data frame format. The basic aesthetics are going to be that on the x-axis, I want the sex data, the male, female, and I want it in the desired order. I want the males and then the females. So that is the purpose of this factor method here. The bars themselves are going to correspond to the mature weight, and I have them as vectors, and I use the vectors to make the data frame. And if you had straight out just a data frame, say if you read a CSV file, then this might be like guppy $sign mat weight. Okay, and then the fill is the group. So that's going to tell you what that was the, for me, group was whether they're in the control group or the experiment group. And so that's that other property. So the other property is the fill. And if I just did that, well, I don't know what that would do with it, just that. But now I'm adding on the type of plot I want, which is the bar graph, the geom_bar. And I'm adding here that the position is position dodge, or I could just say position, I think, equals quote dodge. Position dodge is a fancier method that I could add parameters to and do more with. And what the default is, the default thing is that to stack them, to add. So the fill is the group. So if I didn't have this position dodge, then it would add the male. It would make them different colors, but it would add the male weight for the control and the male weight for the experiment. But when we say position dodge, that's telling us that we don't want stacked. We want what in other places I've heard called clustered. So we want a clustered bar graph, not a stacked bar graph. The stacked is the default. I don't want the default. I want the clustered. Okay. So that's what that little section does. There it is. Okay. Now just a simple, we're going to do the labs, and that is going to, I want to change this y-axis label. There's a x-axis label down here, then I just don't want it all. Again, I'm trying to match this, so there was nothing down here. Males and females, they didn't need to explain what that was. I hope biology majors know what males and females are, so I don't know. All right, and so I'm taking X. There is by default some X label or title or something like that, but here we're taking it out. And but I'm putting in specifically what I want in the Y, and this \n is giving me a new line, so it's going to be sort of 2 lines. And then there is this sort of, I don't know, I'm calling it some padding around this panel. And I'm saying I don't want that. So I'm saying I want my limits of this Y to go from, so this is the scale Y. So this, I want this Y to go up to 250. So I want it to go higher than what it did by default. And this over here, this expand is telling me I don't want this, like it's going to start at 0 and end at 250. I don't want any, what I'm calling padding. Okay, so start off straight at 0 and go up to 250. And I think they went to 240 and I went to 250. I did that before, but this is where I really wanted to start at 0 like they did. Okay. I'm going to add, there is a legend here. I'm going to reposition my legend. And this is one of the things that I would like in the longer run to do better, but not in this video. So I'm going to move the legend to a position, and I'm going to throw it up here in this upper left corner. Okay. And so that was the position, an X, sort of an X and a Y in some kind of like relative coordinate system. Okay, down here, I'm adding geom text. I'm going to add the data. I'm going to label each of these columns with the data. So the label is the weight at maturity. So that's the data I want. I wanted the position. I have to do this dodge thing again. Again, it thinks it's stacked, but this time I had to do, there's a position underscore dodge and a position underscore dodge 2. And it was the dodge 2 that sort of worked for me this time. So, and then these are sort of slight adjustments, sort of you know, where this label is. Okay, so I'm going to put in the numbers of these So they're the numbers of the values for the male control and male experiment and so on. I'm going to change the color of this is a very light gray, all this E. So that's going to be this, what is white is going to turn to a very light gray. What is, I don't know, a light to medium gray is going to turn to sort of a bluish green. And this is the font color is black and the face is bold. So this is the text is going to be this male, female, and I didn't specify .x or .y, so it should also do my numbers going up, and that is the text. And then the title is, there's only a Y title, but I didn't specify X or Y, but there is only a Y, and that would be the weight of the guppies. So that is going to made these male female bold, made these numbers bold, made this axis, this y-axis label bold. Okay, I wanted to, again, just trying to match this to some extent. So I'm changing the colors of my bars here, and that I'm going with the scale fill manual values, Dodger blue and gray. And so there was, the control was blue, the experiment was gray. All right, so that is supposed to be somewhat like this one. Okay, now I'm going to repeat the whole thing with for the age data. And since I'd already sort of worked out slowly, method by method, what these things do for the age, I'm just going to have a big long chain thing. So I just had to change wherever I specified weight for the data, for the labels, and so on. For the y-axis label, I had to change. Most of it's the same. The scale will be different. The y-axis label will be different. The data labels will be different, but much of the rest is the same. So that's just this very long thing here. And so all we're going to do is get the other graph with the age now. So here's the age at maturity, males, females, control experiment. Okay. And now I'm bringing in a new library, the GridExtra Library. And then I'm going to use this arrange. So I'm going to arrange the weight plot and the age plot and have, I want them next to each other. So I want two columns. Make it a little bit bigger. And when you make it a little bit bigger, this positioning of the legend sort of adjusts. Okay, so that's what I have so far. Now, things I would like to do is the graphs in the original thing that I'm copying have a shared legend. So it's both control and experiment. So that's a shared legend. So that is one thing that I might like to make over here is a shared legend. And I gave a link to a tutorial that talks about how to make a shared legend. There's some fancy stuff. I don't want to just copy what he did, though he did a nice job, so it's worth looking into. And then this other link here is for fancier arrangements. So if I wanted to have the figure caption and the legend and the graphs and all that together. So that's what this link is, sort of toward the future of including the caption And this is toward having the shared legend, but I didn't get that far on this one. I think it was already enough. So that's what I wanted to show you on this one. Again, I started off with the data in a different format. Started off with this data frame. As previously, I worked with a matrix. So working with ggplot. ggplot didn't like the matrix. That's why I switched over to the data frame. There are methods for moving back and forth, but I just sort of rewrote the data. ggplot we played with before, and but this, I think this is the first time I used ggplot to make a bar plot. I made a bar plot of a clustered bar, and rather than a single sort of simple bar graph, and rather than a stacked bar graph. So it was a clustered. That was all this dodging stuff. And then just things like this weird scale Y continuous to get rid of any kind of padding. I positioned the legends, whereas in the long run, I really want the shared legend. And this was the axis labels. This was the basic coloring. And this was the coloring of the bars. Okay, that's what I wanted to show you. Thanks for your attention.